When I found her, she was half buried in the desert dust, her lips cracked, her arm wrapped in a torn strip of cloth soaked in blood. The sun had burned the world into silence, even the wind seemed to hold its breath. I didn't think, I just stopped my horse and jumped down. "Easy," I said, offering my canteen. She stared at me, defiant even in her weakness, her dark eyes sharp as obsidian. "You shouldn't," she rasped, but when the water touched her lips, she drank like someone returning from death itself. I'd seen many wounded souls before, this land was full of ghosts, but there was something in her gaze that rooted me where I stood. When she finally caught her breath, she whispered, "Now it's done." I frowned. "What's done?" She looked toward the red horizon and murmured, "You've given me life. You are bound to me now." At first, I thought she was delirious. The heat had a way of breaking people's minds out here. I lifted her carefully onto my horse and took her to the cabin I'd built by the creek. She said little during the ride, though I noticed her scanning the horizon like a hunted animal. At the cabin, I cleaned her wound, made her a bed, and cooked what little stew I had. When she finally spoke again, her voice was calm but carried a strange weight. "Your name," she said softly. "Tell me your name, so the spirits may know the man I belong to." I laughed awkwardly. "I'm not sure I follow. I just helped you. You don't belong to me, miss." Her eyes darkened, and she said with quiet certainty, "You gave me water when my tribe could not. That is the right of union. According to Apache law, you are my husband now." I froze, the spoon halfway to my mouth. "Husband," I repeated, certain I'd misheard. "That can't be right." But she didn't smile. "You shared your life with me," she said. "And in our ways, there is no higher bond." I tried to reason with her, to explain that where I came from, a man didn't marry by giving someone water. But she only looked at me with pity, as though I were a child who didn't understand the world. "You'll see," she said. "They'll come soon." I didn't ask who they were, but a chill went through me all the same. That night, the desert seemed alive. Coyotes howled closer than usual, and the wind carried whispers that sounded almost like chanting. I couldn't sleep. I kept watching her as she lay by the fire, her face serene, her breathing steady. Every so often, her lips moved in silent prayer. Just before dawn, she opened her eyes and said softly, "They are near." I stepped outside and froze. Shapes moved at the edge of the dunes, shadows, mounted, silent as smoke. Apache warriors, a dozen of them. My hand went instinctively to my gun, but she said quickly, "Don't. They come for me, and for you." By the time they reached the cabin, the sun had just begun to rise. Their horses circled like wolves, kicking up dust, and the leader, an older man with a scar running from his temple to his jaw, dismounted first. He looked at me with cold curiosity, then at the girl, who stood weakly beside the door. "Daya," he said in Apache, his voice low. She nodded and pointed toward me. The words that followed were too fast for me to understand, but I caught one, "Husband." My stomach dropped. The old warrior turned back to me and spoke in slow, broken English. "You gave her water." I hesitated. "Yes, she was dying." He nodded once. "Then you gave her your spirit. That means she belongs to you. And you belong to us." Before I could reply, they began chanting, a rhythmic hum that vibrated through the ground. The girl stepped forward, her expression solemn, and placed her hand on my chest. "You must accept it," she said. "If you reject me, the spirits will take what you gave." I didn't understand, until I felt a sudden pressure in my lungs, a searing pain, like my breath itself was being stolen. She gripped my hand, and the pain stopped instantly. "You see," she whispered, "you are tied now." My knees nearly gave out. The old warrior watched, his expression unreadable. "She lives because of you. You live because of her. If one breaks the bond, both die." I wanted to scream that it wasn't fair, that I hadn't chosen this. But deep down, a strange calm began to settle, as though part of me knew she was telling the truth. The desert, the silence, the wind, it all seemed to lean toward her, to acknowledge her words. "You'll come with us," the old warrior said. "There will be a ceremony. Then you'll both belong to the tribe." My mind reeled. "I can't," I said. "I'm not one of you." He gave a thin smile. "You are now." The next hours blurred together, the journey across the canyon, the chants that echoed against the cliffs, the faces of the tribe watching as we arrived. They looked at me not as an outsider, but as something caught between two worlds. The girl, Daya, stayed close, her hand never leaving mine. That night, under the blood-red sky, they gathered around a fire and bound our wrists with a strand of braided leather. They sang in words I didn't know, but somehow, I understood the meaning: life shared, breath joined, fates intertwined. When it was done, Daya looked at me and whispered, "Now, husband, you are one of us." Days passed, and though I resisted at first, I began to change. The desert no longer felt hostile, it felt alive. The people who once looked at me as a stranger now nodded in respect. I helped gather wood, hunt, mend, and in return, they taught me the ways of their world, how to read the stars, how to hear the land. And Daya, she moved like the wind itself, fierce and tender, her laughter echoing through the canyon at dusk. I had come to this land alone, hollowed by loss, but in her presence, something in me healed. I stopped asking if the bond was real. I could feel it, every heartbeat, every breath. One evening, the old warrior found me by the fire. "You understand now," he said. I nodded slowly. It wasn't just about water, was it? He smiled faintly. In our tongue, water is not just what gives life. It is life. When you gave it to her, you gave part of yourself. And when she accepted it, she gave hers back. He looked toward the horizon, his eyes distant. Few understand the weight of saving another soul. Fewer still are chosen to carry it. That night, Daya sat beside me, tracing symbols in the sand. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. I thought for a long time before answering. "No," I said finally. "I came here running from everything, and somehow, I found what I didn't know I was missing." She smiled, leaning her head against my shoulder. "Then the spirits were right," she whispered. "They always are." Years later, when strangers rode through the valley and asked about the white man who lived among the Apaches, they spoke of a man who shared the land as though it were his blood, who walked beside a woman of fire and sky. And though I never fully understood the old laws, I knew this, that one act of kindness, a canteen of water offered beneath a dying sun, had bound two lives together beyond reason, beyond choice. In the desert, where everything fades to dust, somehow, we endured. The moment I stepped outside that morning, the stillness of the desert shattered beneath a sudden tremor of hooves. They came fast, a cloud of dust rising behind a dozen riders, the glint of metal and paint flashing in the sunrise. I had no weapon drawn, no idea what to do. The girl, Daya, stood just behind me, her posture steady despite her wound. When the riders surrounded us, their eyes fixed on me, and I saw in their faces a mixture of suspicion, anger, and something deeper, reverence. The one in front, an older warrior with braided hair streaked gray, dismounted slowly. His face was carved with years of sun and battle. When he spoke, his words were heavy and deliberate. "Who gave you the right to touch her?" I raised my hands, confused. "I didn't touch her. She was dying. I gave her water." A murmur rippled through the group. Daya stepped forward, placing her hand over her heart. "He did," she said firmly. "He gave me life when I was left for death. By our law, that makes him my husband." The men's expressions hardened, and a silence fell that even the wind seemed afraid to disturb. The elder turned to her, his voice rising. "Do you understand what you've spoken? That law is sacred, it cannot be taken back." Daya nodded once. "I know." Then she looked at me, her gaze steady, solemn. "And so does he." I didn't, of course. Not at all. But before I could protest, two of the warriors dismounted and approached me. One took my hand, the other poured a few drops of water from a gourd into it. Then they both stepped back, waiting. The elder pointed at my palm and said, "You've given her your water. That is the sharing of breath. Our ancestors watch now. You belong to her, and through her, to us." I tried to step back, but Daya's hand tightened around mine. "Don't fight it," she whispered. "If you reject it, the desert will reclaim what it gave." The heat pressed around us like an invisible weight. My heart pounded as the elder spoke again, this time in Apache, chanting something low and rhythmic. The others joined in, their voices deep and resonant. The sound rolled through the canyon like thunder, ancient and haunting. When it stopped, the elder placed his hand on my shoulder. "Now you come with us," he said. "There will be a ceremony tonight. You'll learn what your vow means." I wanted to argue, to tell him this was madness, but one look from Daya silenced me. Her eyes glistened, not with fear, but with something close to gratitude. The journey through the desert was endless. They didn't tie me up or threaten me, but I wasn't free either. We rode under the burning sun, through canyons painted in red and gold, until the land itself seemed to pulse with life. As dusk fell, we reached their camp, a circle of tents and fires flickering against the dark. Children peeked from behind blankets, women whispered as I passed. I felt like a ghost walking through another world. Daya walked beside me, silent, her posture proud despite her bandaged arm. She guided me toward a large tent at the center of camp. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and the scent of sage. Elders sat in a circle, their faces painted with symbols that caught the light of the fire. The old warrior who had spoken earlier stood behind me. He gave her water, he said solemnly. The bond has begun. The others nodded. Then one of the women motioned for Daya and me to kneel before the fire. She held a clay bowl filled with ash and sprinkled it over our hands. By the breath of the sky and the heart of the earth, she chanted, "Your spirits are now one." I tried to pull away, but Daya's grip tightened. "Please," she whispered, "don't fight it. You saved my life. Let me protect yours." A strange warmth spread through me, from my fingertips to my chest. It wasn't pain, it was something else, something deep and binding, like invisible threads pulling me closer to her. When I looked into her eyes, the fire reflected there, alive and endless. The chanting grew louder, filling my head until I couldn't think. For a moment, everything faded, the fire, the voices, even the ground beneath me, until there was only her. Daya, the girl I'd found half dead in the sand. The one who now, somehow, called me husband. When the ceremony ended, the camp grew quiet. The elders rose and left without a word. Daya turned to me, her face calm but unreadable. "It's done," she said softly. "You're one of us now." I stood, my voice shaking. I didn't agree to this. I just wanted to help. She looked down, her expression filled with something that looked like sorrow. "The spirits don't wait for consent," she said. "They only honor action. You gave what no one else would, your water, your will to live. The desert heard it, it decided for you." That night, I lay awake beside the fire outside the tent, watching the stars flicker through the smoke. Around me, the camp slept in silence, but I could still feel that strange warmth pulsing through my veins, the connection I hadn't chosen. Every time the wind shifted, I thought I heard whispers in it, ancient voices repeating the same words over and over. "He gave life. He belongs." I closed my eyes, knowing that my old life, the man who once rode alone through these lands, was gone. The desert had taken him. In his place was someone new, bound to a girl he'd barely met, and to a destiny he could no longer escape.